Good morning and welcome. I'm Maupe Yusuf.
I was going to say to you, Maupe, thank God your Friday is finally here. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Okay, so in the spirit of just letting your hair down, have a look at this. I mean, it's a sight to behold. What a lovely area. We're talking about Suleja Dam. Yeah, one of the many lovely areas in this country that you can do a lot of things with, depending on what you want, really. But sometimes I just want to sit back and just have a look and take it all in.
You know, one of the things that is beautiful about this dam is the fact that you get to see different parts of it depending on what time of the year you visit.
So that's the thing. We had gone there earlier in the year when it wasn't raining and it wasn't flowing. So we went back to this. This is the very latest of the images from the Suleja Dam right now that the weather is the way it is. So that's why you get to see it this way.
Indeed. So I'm just going to keep quiet and let people soak it all in. Can we shut up for as much as 5 minutes? I know that's a lot of airtime. But at least, you know, just a bit of calm, a bit of quiet, and just imagine for a moment that you're right there and you're watching this water flow down, cascading. This one is man-made. Yes, God didn't make this one, but he gave man the knowledge to make it. And look at what we've made. Look at what we're capable of. Indeed, godlike almost, you would say. It is really a sight to behold, especially in the rainy season. Interestingly, I think someone was asking, does this dam generate any electricity? I'm not very certain. I don't have the answer to that question. But I can tell you that this dam was built to supply water to communities around the Suleja area and perhaps even beyond. Look at that. I think this is also making use of a natural river. And you'll never, well, Niger State is blessed indeed. Niger State is vast and wide. And Suleja is right there. One of the places that the land that was used to create Abuja was taken from. That's the Niger State. So this is what you have in Suleja. To supply water to the residents there. At least that's what we have been told. The question now is it doing the work? Well, even if it's not doing the work of supplying water to the homes, at least we can go and stay at the dam. And we know that usually tourists go there. They do go there. I mean, this place comes alive weekends. I think we visited during a weekday. That's why you're not seeing anybody there. But weekends, you find people in that arc, within that circle, swimming, playing, and just, you know, having a bit of fun. So it's Friday, thanks be to God. If you do ever travel around Abuja, this might be something for you to see around this time. Ayo.
You know, beside the, oh, wow, look at this view. Gosh. I'm seeing a movie, Chamberlain. I'm seeing a movie. Yeah, I'm seeing a movie. Wow, this is awesome. You know, I was just checking, I mean, what are the things that one could do with a river and with a place like this? I mean, looking at that river away from the dam itself, I could imagine 1,001 things that could be done, commercially too. I mean, not just sitting around it. Of course, that's a good thing. But there are some parts of this dam, I'm pretty sure, that can be used for boat racing, you know, and all kinds of leisure and recreation. So, now that we know, is there anything the government of this beautiful, man-made, natural endowment do to make it look better? This is a view to keep. Wow. Well, this one is definitely happening this weekend for some people, right? And what's happening today, I'm talking about business. I'm looking at the business angle of this, and I don't know who is looking at this as well, the way I'm looking at it, but I mean, talking about business at the top of the hour, at 10 o'clock, Business Morning on Sunrise Daily will be looking at doing business in a high interest rate environment. No. This picture doesn't look like what we just saw, but hey, it is what it is, isn't it, Chamberlain?
Oh, yes, indeed. And as a matter of fact, there'll be a lot more when we take you through some of the dailies this morning. So let's have a look.
Stories about the impending protests seem to take the cake this morning on the front pages of the dailies. Begin with the Daily Trust. I engaged in protests, but without violence, Tinubu. FG governors intensify efforts to stop August 1 demonstration. President meets monarchs, religious leaders. DSS warns against anarchy. All of that on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The Blueprint newspaper has a similar story. On planned August 1 protest, we won't allow extreme violence, anarchy, Tinubu, DHQ, DSS warn. Protesters target violent outcome for regime change. This is ascribed to Afunaya. They want to create a state of war, says military. NSA assures governors. Afenifere TUC caution Nigerians. The front page of the Daily Independent has a similar story as well. We've identified sponsors of planned nationwide protests, according to DSS. No to protest that leads to destruction of lives and property, according to Tinubu. Military intelligence envisages it may lead to anarchy. The MO director says protesters targeting worship centers, markets, critical assets, others. MBF warns against sponsoring pro-government protesters to cause anarchy. That story is on page 29 of the Daily Independent this morning. The front page of Daily Times has a different twist to it. Nigeria's economy on path of recovery, according to Tinubu, says we will do more to meet the needs of citizens. I have no cabal or sponsors to compensate. Details on the inside pages of the paper this morning. The Vanguard newspaper protests. No government will condone destruction of lives, property, according to Tinubu and a host of writers on the front page of the paper. Meet APC governors, monarchs in Aso Rock. Don't allow it to be hijacked, Oni tells organizers. We'll listen to youths, Ding of Abo. Listen to words of wisdom from government, Emir of Zazo. DSS identifies sponsors, warns against action. FCT unavailable for August 1 protest, according to Wiki. We're not part of August 1 protest, TUC. Shelf planned protests for sake of economy, Ojinika tells youths. The details continue on the inside pages of the paper. Planned protest as the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. DHQ, DSS warn against anarchy, identify sponsors. Stories on page 2 and a host of writers. The front page of the New Telegraph has this one. August 1 hardship protest. Tinubu APC governors meet traditional rulers in Aso Rock. The stories are on pages 2, 26, and 31 of the New Telegraph newspaper this morning. Front page of Nigeria News Direct, H1 review. Tinubu's government still on course to reduce food prices, lift millions out of poverty. According to Edo, dumps ways and means as FG targets FX from diaspora with issuance of $500 million security. August says 600,000 households beneficiaries of direct transfer program this week alone. Details continue on the inside pages. The Guardian newspaper, development commissions without development. Regions, citizens languish amid proliferation of political SPVs. What does that mean? The details are on pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. These are the stories we have for you today.
Well, you see that most of the lead stories on the front pages this morning are dealing with the protest. But there are other stories which we mustn't miss. And there's this one right on top of the New Telegraph talking about allocation. Allocation, federal government hits brick wall over implementation of local government autonomy. You know, all of this talk around the protests seems to be blurring the conversation around the Supreme Court judgment, which was hailed and which was, you know, many people welcomed with open arms. The question now is what is happening with that? How is implementation happening? That's the big question. So just 2 weeks ago, yes, 2 weeks ago was when this judgment was given. And, you know, there was plenty of salutation, plenty of, you know, let's say euphoria, optimism in the air as to what could happen at the grassroots level. And some people will say, well, maybe if we had had this way before now, who knows? Maybe there wouldn't have been talk about a protest. You never can tell. But be that as it may, the Supreme Court did grant judgment to the Attorney General of this country, saying that local governments could receive their funds directly. And it was, I think there were some, you know, conditions. For instance, a lot of local governments that do not have substantive chairmen could not receive their funds. So there are questions now as to what exactly is happening with implementation. Who do we speak with regards to how this judgment is being implemented? Because if you speak with a number of former local government chairmen, they will tell you it's not the first time that such a judgment was coming, but the judgment was killed on arrival because of a lack of implementation. It simply went to voicemail. And this particular judgment mustn't be allowed to go to voicemail if it has the capacity, if it has the potential to be able to turn around the fortunes of people at the grassroots. So we ask this morning, what is happening with the implementation of the Supreme Court judgment given on local government autonomy? Just in case you're curious as to what exactly I'm talking about, pick up a copy of New Telegraph. It has right there, allocation, federal government hits brick wall over implementation of local government autonomy. Maybe we should be speaking with the Minister of Finance, whoever it is that is in charge of FAC, is whom we should be speaking with to know what exactly is going on with the implementation of that judgment.
Well, solid words, Malcolm, no doubt. My take this morning is a little comical, being a Friday morning, on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. And actually my take is Mr. and Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. Mrs. is out of sight. Says, yeah, the dietitian was here to remind you about, and Mr. interjects, he should look for another job. Why? Mrs. says out of sight, who needs a dietitian in this era of food scarcity? I think the message is clear. That's my take this morning, guys.
I'm speaking, quite interesting. But I think the last time they disbursed some of those allocations, they disbursed to some local governments that had conducted elections. And for those ones that had not, it was not disbursed yet. And that was just shortly before the frenzy. Local government, states suddenly started conducting several
local government elections. But while the states have now set the timetable for these local government elections, from what we gather, we understand that the Federation cannot hold on to their funds. So they must send them to somebody, but they say not the caretaker chairman. And they're going to be sending them to the secretaries of the local government. And people are saying, doesn't that defeat the purpose? So,
well, it's going to be tricky because if the law says, look, you can't give to any state that hasn't conducted local government elections. That's what it is. So where they keep the money, I don't know. I don't know how they do it, but you cannot give to them. So what, they set up a special account where they put all those monies that will not be in the purview of the federal government? Who knows?
If you're giving it to the secretary of the local government, some people are saying, of the local government.
Where election has not been held? That would be tantamount to giving to states.
Exactly, to the governors. That's what they're saying. But you cannot hold on to their funds. So, I don't know. It certainly will make an interesting read. I haven't read the story, but I had, interestingly, and this is me promoting hard copy now, I did have an interview yesterday with a former local government chairman who's currently in the House of Representatives. And he told me, he said, look, we're only 50% done on this job that needs to be done. That the optimism, he wants to be optimistic, but this is a real situation. This is a real half cup full situation. It can go down from there, or we'll have to work hard, to take it up. But it's not yet Uhuru. We're far from Uhuru. That's it. So it's interesting that I had such a conversation yesterday, which will be airing tonight, by the way, at 8:30 p.m. And this is right there on the front page of New Telegraph.
Well, there are different interpretations to it. If the court says you can't give them those funds, is it not tantamount to saying hold on to it? Since you can't give to them, what does that mean? Well, who knows? At least we're on our way to Uhuru, if it's not yet to Uhuru. So I hope we'll get there. Other things may be equal. But staying with us, of course, we'll focus on this. Many voices about protests here and there We'll talk about it here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Belongs to the dreamers, to the doers, to those who are not afraid of the side hustle. It's for those who are ready to turn their passion into something big. And to help keep you revitalized and inspired, Top Tea is with you every step of the way. You are made for more. Find your inspiration. Top Tea, big round bags of flavor.
We are thrilled to have you on board as we chart the course for our next chapter. We're inviting you to take up your right in full for 19 naira 75 kobo per share. From the 8th of July to 14th of August, take advantage of the chance to acquire one more ordinary share for every 2 shares in your portfolio. Visit www.theaccesscorporation.com to subscribe. Access Holdings, where financial solutions connect the world.
Officers at the ready, the red carpet laid out, the State House is ready for newly appointed ambassadors. The ambassador from the United States, the High Commissioner of Malaysia to Nigeria, and the High Commissioner of Botswana. One after the other handed in their letters of credence to President Bola Tinubu. In his remarks to the U.S. ambassador, President Tinubu is quoted in a statement by his special advisor on media, Ajuri Ngalale, to have touched on the issue of the planned protest by some Nigerians, saying, "During the military era, we made our voices heard against dictatorship, and I was part of the group that engaged in peaceful protests without resorting to the destruction of property. We've worked hard to ensure 25 years of unbroken democracy, and I will continue to maintain this democracy. Inasmuch as we believe that demonstrations are part of democracy, we will never encourage any protest that lead to the destruction of lives and property." Afterwards, the president meets with some governors led by the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. They, however, declined to speak after the meeting. Next was a meeting with traditional rulers from across the country. In attendance were some ministers and Inspector General of Police. After the meeting, the traditional rulers called for calm and patience.
It is very difficult to build, but it is the easiest to destroy. We are all stakeholders of this country. We should be stronger as a nation together.
This protest, I know that it's catching you very, very high in your neck. But if you give us the chance, let us not destroy our own country. I ask you, think of Libya. Libya was a beautiful country. What has happened to Libya, we don't want it to happen here. Let's go home. Let's continue to strive the best that we can and continue to work with the government to see if we can proffer some solutions.
Well, message we're taking back to our people is to be calm, to exercise patience, and also to listen to the words of wisdom coming from the traditional rulers, from the governors, because we have spoken to the president, and he has given us the blueprint of what he has been doing over time, and we're hopeful, that inshallah, it will be well.
It It was a busy day for the president as he also met with a delegation of Islamic scholars. They speak on the outcome of their meeting.
Internally, we are against insurrection because this is not a protest. It is a protest that has the potential to lead to insurrection, the destruction of lives and properties and infrastructures. We are appealing to the people to shelve it. It is an ill wind that blows no one no good.
It will appear these meetings have proven invaluable in ensuring an exchange of information, all in a bid to ensure the peace and unity of the country. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
We're joined by Chief Jeff Ojinika, who himself is a former member of the National Assembly. He's also the National Chairman, Coalition for Change. Thank you for coming on this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. And,
yeah.
Good morning, Nigerians.
So, when you listen to these several reports of what's going on, you hear phrases like insurrection, Libya, anarchy, and then people could be of the impression, wait a minute, is it that what is about to happen, the protest, that is what it's going to be about? Or maybe they have information that regular Nigerians don't have, because some of us thought, we thought it was just supposed to be just a mere protestation about the rising cost of living. What do you think of all of this?
Yeah, thank you, Chamberlain. I'll first and foremost start by saying that peace, they say, is not absence of war. And what makes a society stable is not absence of conflict, but the ability of the society to manage the conflicts that arise therein. Once the society is dynamic enough to be able to manage conflicts that arise in that society, you can say that that society is stable. And we have our ground norm. Our ground norm is the Constitution. There are constitutional rights granted to citizens of the country that nobody at any point in time, whether being it military, being it government, being it, can take those rights away from. So the right to self-expression, the right for people to possibly express themselves, those rights are enshrined in the Constitution. And at any point, a government tends to trample on that right. It is now heading towards dictatorship.
Is there an indication that that is about to happen or has been happening?
The situation in fact, I'm amused and at the same time disappointed with the way, in the trend of events. Because when you see the reaction, it is not just the action. The reaction, the people have given an indication that almost 3 weeks notice or 1 month notice that around so time will be demonstrating about bad governance that we have in the country. One is that there's a failure of intelligence. One is that if you have a good intelligence network, before the release of that information, the intelligence would have known that there's a bottled up anger in the system and in the society, and they would have been in the best position to even nip it at the bud in such a way as address those issues and concerns or respond to them in such a way that that situation will not even arise. But our intelligence, we have NIA, we have police, we have DSS, we have them in all the local governments in this country. They've not been able to come up with a noticeable intelligence to show that around so time that these things will happen.
Well, I think yesterday the DSS put up a statement that they have uncovered some persons about these protests. That is what you mean?
That is the usual thing that you will expect. That's not the kind of intelligence we are talking of. The intelligence is the type that they would have come up with even before this time. The people that are more or less say they want to protest have given a notice. It's for the intelligence to have known who are they and possibly try to see how they can engage them. what are these issues? What are the issues that you are trying to have? Because the issue of good governance, everybody in every society, everybody clamors for good governance. And there are indicators. There are indicators of good governance. Things that if you do, they will know that that's good governance. So have you tried to, and about 5, 6 indicators, have the government in any way tried to come up with those issues to show that there is good governance? Is it the kind of reports you hear every day? Is it the type that gives you an indication that there's good governance in the country, where 40-something billion can miss in a ministry? If somebody can steal money belonging to the poorest of the poor, then know what will happen to the money belonging to the privileged ones.
Have you seen the demands of the protesters, of the planned protests?
Well, everything is on the media. That online, it says that you get to hear people talking, but everything revolves about good governance. And good governance, so to say, is if you have the essence of good governance is that it must reflect on the life of the average person.
Did you see the part where they were talking about something like Tinubu must go and things like that?
You know, all those things you can liken to side talks. Or some people, they can also be a third columnist in this issue. You know, people, because the essence, some people can come to brand the such protests as if it is issue of political. They try to understand it that it is political.
Isn't it?
If hunger is political, so if you get, I mean,
to the extent that
if you get to the market now,
to the extent that the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar did put up notices indicating his support for this kind of protest, how should people interpret that?
If you get to the market today, in Abuja here, there's a very small, on the airport road, Goza Market. If you get there, you can, if you enter with 50,000 to shop for the family, by the time you finish, you feel robbed. You feel as if somebody robbed you. It can hardly put food on the table of the people. So there is hunger, there is starvation. It is palpable.
Yeah,
what I'm asking is, in the air.
What I'm asking is this.
What
I'm asking is, are they not giving the government or the authorities at least some something to hold on to by saying this is political? When politicians now begin to add their voices, saying yes, we want this, we support that, shouldn't they allow it just take its natural course so they can really say, look, yes, people feel very hard about the economy.
Whether you're a politician, you are hungry. Whether you're a traditional ruler, whether you're a priest, everybody shop from the same market. Everybody is affected by the state of the economy. The Chamberlain, what we really expect is that there's a ruling party. In those good days of the ANC, I was surprised that the National Assembly went on recess at this critical moment. What the ANC usually do, the ANC as a political party will arrange for town hall meetings at all levels. If you are a councillor, they will take you back to your constituency for you to go and give account of your stewardship. What you have done is not the type that they do here, where people go, eat, prepare bags of rice and not the rest of them, go and call dancers and they will go and dance around. No. At every level of representation, ANC organizes it, and by the time they take you back to your constituency, you will know whether they are going to bring you back again or not. And I can tell you how many of our members now can ordinarily, without a guided or a guarded audience, go back to confront their constituents in the face of the realities and in the face of what we have in the country.
So even though they tell us that they do, you don't think that that is the case?
What they are doing is a jamboree. It's not the type that ANC organizes. ANC will organize it. They are the ones, it's not the member that will organize it. Mm-hmm. The party will organize it and take you to go and meet with the level of representation. If you're a councillor, they will take you to the ward. If you are a state assembly member, they take you to state assembly constituency, where you go and give a detailed account of what you have done with the mandate and the votes they gave to you. If you're at any level, and you know they run a parliamentary system, so even the prime minister, you know, comes from a constituency or something like that before you are finally elected as the leader of the party. So it is very, very important, and one of the cardinal of good governance is there must be accountability. There must be transparency. Do you understand? There must be transparency, accountability. These are very critical rudiments of. So there are certain things that people are expecting a reaction. It is not just this action. What pains me and what makes me want to like shed tears for this nation, as if there is no future, is that the way they are responding. You see in Lagos, they're saying we'll bring out there will be a poll ceremony. In the FCT here, they're saying that they will give certificates to traditional rulers. In order, when there are, it's just like when you go to where there is a plenty sheet and you start spraying perfume. It's a waste of, instead of addressing the very critical issues. And those critical issues is that, can they convert it to, we are in a farming season now. What has this government, what have they done to increase food production? Rather, you see the response. Government said, we are going to import rice, we are going to import maize, we are going to import this. It will take them like 2 months to import those things for them to come into the country. At least 6 weeks, if you for it to come and clear before you start the distribution chain. Whereas there are maize that you can produce in less than 70, 80 days, 90 days.
Yes, 90
rice.
90 days is still 3 months.
Yes.
So, I mean,
so you can do locally here.
Recently, we had a conversation with the Minister of State for Agriculture, and he said that we must bear in mind that, you know, what they're trying to address is a current shortage that they have planted, but it's not going to, you know, materialize immediately. But in the meantime, people need to eat. So they have given this a 150-day window, you know, to bring in food without tax, so that they can bring down the prices of food in the market.
So where did he tell you that they have done all those things? They have. We have never. Today in the market, you go to markets in a bag of fertilizer here costs the cheapest one is about 45,000. There are ones if it is 15, those ones are up to 56,000.
Let me know.
And it is outside the range of the average farmer.
I don't want to derail your thoughts, but I have to interrupt because there are a number of things that you have said. You talked about hunger in the land, which is indisputable. A lot of people, yes, understand that. Even if you're not currently hungry, the fact that the prices at which you used to buy things is not what you normally buy them, you know, is everybody that is feeling it. So, but some people will say that for that to be galvanized, for the hardships that the people are currently facing to be galvanized into a protest takes some organization. What government has been saying is that they can't seem to speak with the leaders of this particular protest. Do you think that this, well, some people have said that, look, this is a tactic that, you know, the people have decided to adopt so that their leaders cannot be compromised and so that, you know, their leaders also cannot be detained. Do you think that as a double-edged sword in the current environment that we're in, you know, it's too dangerous to play with?
Your question is very rhetorical, and I would like to. It has always been because of the government approach. In the past, what you have seen, and that's why maybe people are hiding their identity and all whatnot, you know, what you have seen in the past is where people come up, they will sponsor talks to go and attack people. It has always happened severally in Abuja. And the police will be there seeing talks, attack people who are protesting, something that, you know, is the right of an average Nigerian. That is right to self-expression. They are not there, they are not controlling the pulse, but at least they can say that you are doing it right or you are not doing it right. So the things that we're expecting from this government, and that was starting from the first day of this government, because after election, the president would have been given enough brief as to the economic situation in the country. He would have had intelligence about the economic situation in the country. What one expected is that the cost of governance should have been reduced by at least 70%. And when I mean this, you will still see government officials, ministers, everybody using SUVs, even DPOs are using convoys of about three jeeps with
DPOs?
So immigration, everybody in this country, local government, everybody is. We want to see that by the time in 1998, in 99, the military government handed over to the civilians. The governor in Imo State, and I was in the State Assembly in 99, they handed over, it was 3 cars, 504, the pilot vehicle, the military or the governor's car, and then the speaker. These are the things, or if you now have maybe media, these are the vehicles you see in the governor's convoy. But today, what do you see? If you see the level of ostentation, the level of, it doesn't depict our state of economy, that people cannot eat. These are abject realities that people expected. The people that came close to it is the National Assembly, that say they are cutting their salary by half. But you know, in that case, it's cosmetic. Because the issue people are complaining about the National Assembly is not with their salary, but with the allowances. That's where they would have gone. And they would have gotten it right. And if they had done that, they will insist that other people will follow. So people are expecting some very stringent, radical measures on the part of the government to show. So it is not in the face of the abject poverty that we have, that issues, what you hear in the debate is we're buying a presidential jet, buying yacht, buy all this, all those stories. And then especially one of the major issues now, we have never been able to solve our power crisis.
Yeah, Mr. Ojinika, I'm not disputing any of the issues which you have raised. I mean, they're completely valid. However, do you have your own fears or any anxiety about the fact that, no known group has come out? I mean, in those days, if there was a price increase in petrol, for instance, the NLC, we understand, will go on protest. Students will protest. Usually they will have an association, but so far so good, especially since, well, I say it was an experiment with the NSAS protest. There's been no group of people who will say, we are the ones putting this together. There's been no central organizing factor for this. Does it give you a bit of anxiety?
A lot of apprehension, anxiety. Honestly, because there are, the other day there was this thing going on in terms of how you can do protests to make sure that it is not overtaken by hoodlums. The fundamental issues that you must have to have. What I said is a failure of intelligence. Most of the things they're doing online. But the government has a control of it. They have a way. If we have intelligence, if our intelligence, the NIA, the kind of money they're spending at the security level, NIA, NSA, civil defense, with all the immigration, all the things, all the security networks, by now they should have been. We have
but they have
the
come out with
Communications
something.
Commission. They have
come out with something. I'm taking a look at what the DSS released yesterday. DSS counsels against planned protests in Nigeria. It talks about how while peaceful protest is the democratic right of citizens, the service has confirmed a sinister plan by some elements to infiltrate the protest and use it to cause chaos and extreme violence in the land. It has also identified the reason behind the protest to be political. I mean, there was a very long statement, released by the DSS yesterday, and they also gave their own numbers, which is usually very rare. They give numbers to say it will be available to members of the public who may wish to contact the service. That's the statement of the DSS as released by them yesterday.
All communications in this country, they have access to it. all communications, when I mean WhatsApp, telephone conversations, all the rest of them, through the media through which all these things go on, the intelligence, the security network, they have access to it. So, and that's why I said, if they have not been able to decode the source of all this, it's a failure of intelligence. Intelligence is not carrying a gun and moving about. The National Communication Commission is there, the Galaxy backbone, the source through which every communication comes into this country.
Are you saying they should be listening on people's conversations? Is that what you're suggesting?
I said they have access to it.
You're saying they do already.
They have.
Okay, so
they have access.
So this is what they have come out with. This is what they had. They said they have reviewed that is a sinister plot. So should we dismiss this?
Since you said they have access, so maybe from the access,
so
they got this.
Well, the thing is that this is the normal, traditional thing, information we hear from those quarters, when issues like this. But the most important thing is that we will want them to come up. I want a situation where, the president, they took the bull by the horn when the 36 governors of this country have been filtering away with over 25%, more than 25-30% of the money going of the federation account. That's the money going to the TT of government. It has been their private pocket money that they have never accounted for. They had to use a judicial process to compare.
Even though the governor say, some of them, we heard them say, we have never touched local government funds. It's been going to them.
Well, some people, one of the Nigerian politicians have always been created. They say, I don't like money. So it is one of such saying. If the governor has never touched the local government money, then nobody has touched it.
Ayo, please go ahead. I don't know if you touch it, you like money.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, Mr. Ojinika, let me ask you point blank: do you support this protest, this impending protest? Can you hear me, Mr. Ojinika? Can you hear me now? Mr. Ojinika, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Do you support this protest? Can you still hear me? Mr. Ojinika, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Do you support this protest?
Whether I support
the protest.
The protest.
Yes.
Every Nigerian is protesting. The average Nigerian in the street is protesting because our stomachs are protesting. You can't go to people who are sick. If you're a hypertensive patient in this country now, you'll be protesting.
Okay.
Because hypertensive drugs that people used to get monthly at the rate of 1,500, you can no longer get at 15,000.
Well, I'm building up to something. Well, Mr. Ojinika, I'm building up to something. If you can hear me, just a second. My apologies.
It's not a matter of Nigerians are protesting.
Okay. Will you be coming out
the protest is on daily basis.
Will you be coming out on August 1 to join the protest?
Whether I will be coming out on August 1?
Yes.
People can protest in various forms. That is, people can stay indoors, people can come outside, people can do all sorts of things.
You are right.
A way of demonstrating.
That is correct.
Even
people have the right to do it the way they like, but will you be coming out on that day?
Nobody. Please, I'm appealing to Nigerians, and if anybody is protesting, let it be peaceful. I don't support any protest that is not peaceful.
Okay.
If it is not going to be peaceful, it's better not done at all.
Okay. So, Mr. Ojinika, how do you propose that the protest should be conducted peacefully across the nation without being able to identify the people who are organizing it?
The security agencies should be able to give security to people who are protesting. That's the only way it will not escalate. But what we had in the past is a situation where people will come out to protest, and then hired thugs will come to attack them.
No,
and
Mr.
that's when
Ojinika,
it becomes violent.
Just a second. I mean, just to be clear, I mean,
but if people are allowed
the process,
it's usually by show of placards. If you have,
just one moment, Mr. Ojinika.
You write them in your placards, and the press will be able to cover.
Just one moment. There's something that you said now.
Raised.
There's something
and the government will be expected to address those issues.
There's something that you said that I just want to be clear. I mean, the question I think is, clear in itself. So far, the DSS says they have been able to identify the people who are behind these, who are planning this protest. However, no name has been given. Even now, scour the internet, you can't find, the average people can't find the people who are organizing this protest. In fact, there are a number of people that say, look, the president and the leaders should talk to the organizers, but who they are is still a question to be answered. Now, when people are going to come out to protest, there needs to be some kind of leadership. So I'm asking you, how do people protest, join a protest that they can't identify the people who are organizing it?
I told you that everybody, the average person, except maybe the 360, 109, 44 ministers, the permanent secretaries, and the directors in the ministry, you can count the number of people that may not be protesting. The rest, the average person, average entrepreneur in this country, who happens to be even contractors, will be protesting because you can no longer go to public institutions and get contract awarded without, either buying it or being favored or doing it on behalf of some of the people in government.
All right.
Things are so close now. The people, the contractors, everybody is in trouble.
Now, for you,
the protest, you cannot possibly know who that person will be. It may be some of the people they have called to talk to, maybe traditional rulers, because the thing is biting everybody. So the thing is biting everybody.
All right, just this one question again. What do you see this protest achieving? Can you hear me, Mr. Ojinika?
I'm hearing you now.
Yeah. I said, what do you see this protest achieving? What are your expected outcomes for this protest?
Even without this protest taking place already, it has achieved a lot. Even without the protest taking place, it has achieved a lot. Today, I hear of a lot of, nobody has fixed, most people, except for most are programs now. If somebody is trying to arrange for a wedding, for anything, even people scheduling their flights, everybody has it from everything from 31st, no more. So it has already woken up the consciousness of the citizen. It shows that the power does not belong to the people in government. The power belongs to the citizens. This means that the office of the citizen, that is the most important office in the country, must be respected. So even without people coming out in the street already, it has kept these people to know that at least it's people that are governing. That citizens' consciousness It's already in the air. Even a small child today now knows that something is going to happen between August 1 to August 3rd. So that citizens' consciousness and awareness is there. And then for all people in government, at least it has made the members of National Assembly to say that they are forfeiting 50% of their salary. Has it not achieved much without even the protest taking place?
So it
has also made all this level of consultations, meeting with traditional, meeting with this, meeting with that, wouldn't have been done if not for this.
So, but then
and some of these measures, being taken in the positive direction, wouldn't have been done without. So it has really evoked citizens. In fact, in some climes, where the citizens really have their rights, this is the way to go. Okay. They put the people in such a way that they will start accounting.
So are you saying then, Mr. Ojinika, just 1 second, because
the power conferred in the people in government is so much.
Can you hear me, Mr. Ojinika? Are you saying by then that with all of these achievements, with this awareness,
that the citizens have is this power of expression?
Okay.
With this, they just want to use.
When you say that a lot has been achieved already, are you saying then that Are you saying then that the organizers should sheath their swords, in a manner of speaking?
No. What they need to do, I believe in proper engagement. That's why if you hear my introductory remarks, I said peace is not absence of war. And secondly, that the absence of conflict doesn't mean that a society is not stable. The presence of conflict does not mean that a society is unstable. You have to manage the conflict. All the issues bothering people will be put on the front burner, and must be addressed one after the other.
So
by now, you see the kind of issue that is still a mystery. It is still a mystery that Nigeria, one of the highest producers of crude oil, one of the products in the crude oil is this PMS and this the other one that were still important, and that none of our refineries can work. As if some people have signed the agreement that our refineries will never work in such a way that will keep important. So
speaking about the reaction, you spoke about the reaction a lot, but what we also know, and which is likely going to happen because we've seen it before, some of these persons who are being mobilized, who are visiting, holding conferences, talking about, I dissociate myself, that our group is not part of it. Some of them may be used to also hire persons who will, quote and unquote, infiltrate the crowd. There will be counter-protests on that day. There will be several people who will mobilize against those who may be coming out to genuinely protest, who you talk about, just have your placards and all of those things. So we don't know what day, if at all they will even come out on the first day. So if that scenario plays out, how would you advise?
If that scenario plays out?
Because it will likely play out like that.
If that scenario plays out, it's a failure of governance. It will still be a failure of governance. It will still be a failure on the part of our security agencies. Because all over the world, you see it in America, you see it in places, people are protesting. When people are protesting, the security agencies give them protection. They give them protection. So if the security agencies in the country, the DSS, the police, the army, they fail to give protection to the people who are protesting, it is failure of governance.
Yeah, but even in America, we have seen protests go all right.
Well, you can never. You don't need. You don't need 100% to have a distinction. If you have 80, so you don't expect that there's no perfection.
In terms of achieving at least some of these challenges that we're all facing in this country, if you go today for rentage, wherever, the cost is going up. Cost of living, food stuff, consistently going up. PMS too, the challenge is all there. And then the narratives coming from both camps, either from the government, who say we're doing certain things, and even this protest, even if it holds for that period, the question too will remain, will anything really change?
Yeah, something will change. There will be a lot of change.
That will affect the cost of living, bring down this cost and these prices?
The problem we have is that there's misplacement of priorities. Some time ago, in the program here, the last time we discussed the issue of GMOs, I said, go and understudy the budget of all the parastatals and agencies in the Ministry of Agriculture. You will see that I did analysis of the National Cocoa Research Institute. There was a time the whole money that was used in developing Southwest came from cocoa. That Cocoa Research Institute, if you go and look at the budget of the Cocoa Research Institute, you will see that over 70% of what is in the budget for that Cocoa Research Institute has nothing to do with development of cocoa. It's unrelated things. So you see that and that is the way most of the things, most of our national budget has veered. We have lost touch with reality.
I mean, today we have several development commissions. We don't know if it will bring development to different areas, but that's another subject for another day. Well, to thank you for coming on. So maybe one will do a lot more research on that. We'll come up with several recommendations. Thank you very much indeed for coming on today.
So please, I want to appeal to the demonstrators. If you have cause to demonstrate, let it be peaceful.
All right.
And then secondly, the Inspector General of Police, the DSS, they have a duty. They have a constitutional duty.
Okay, to protect the people.
To protect Nigerians, whether you call them demonstrators or whether you call them people in government.
All right, then.
They enjoy the protection of everybody.
Business Money will be coming up on the hour.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Access Holdings, we are heading into the next phase of our evolution. And with our rights issue, you get an increased stake in it. From the 8th of July to the 14th of August, you can get your share of over 17 billion shares at 19.75 naira per share. That's one new ordinary share to every 2 shares held. Visit theaccesscorporation.com to subscribe. Access Holdings, where financial solutions connect the world.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do business for just about 30 minutes. Beginning from the global space, oil prices rose slightly on Friday, but remained on track for a third straight week of declines. That's because of weak demand in China, which is the world's largest crude importer, as well as the expectation of a ceasefire deal for the Gaza war and related violence in the Middle East. And we look at the numbers, and we see that it's in the green this morning, even though it's slight.
but it's still in the green. So we see a 0.2% increase. That's about 15 cents for the Brent, $82.52 a barrel for WTI from the United States. $78 is the price, and that's also of 0.2%. That's about 13 cents for that. As mentioned earlier, the gains on Friday and Thursday also were related to the data showing that the United States economy had grown at a faster than expected rate during the second quarter. So perhaps that interest rate cut is closer than we think. September, December, those are the proposed months. Hopefully that's what happened. Chinese data this week showed that the country's apparent oil demand fell 8.1% to 13.66 million barrels a day in June. And that, of course, prompts concerns about consumption. As we know, China is the world's second largest consumer of oil. And so data from there affects the movement of the price of oil. And then we come to Nigeria, where there was a slight appreciation, but not to be excited. It's on the NAFEX window. It's gained 0.11 kobo, and that's a 0.01%. That's so slight. Well, it's not the major market. The major market is NAFEM, where we saw that finally the Naira dropped to 1,600. We've been hovering around 1,500, 1,550 and 80 and all of that. But yesterday, there was that drop, more than 1% at the close of trade. And so the Naira dropped from 1,586 Naira 71 kobo to 1,603 Naira 80 kobo. And well, they say we shouldn't be worried. It's the summer demand for the dollar. But wouldn't it be nice if we did not have to wait for seasonal drop and gains on the Naira, if we had more of demands on the Naira? Well, anyways, we'll see that, and I'm sure we're still waiting on that. And then the issue of oil products, the quality of petroleum products in the country, of course, has been in the news in recent time. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere soon. Now, the Senate says it is set to question major industry figures, including the Central Bank, NNPCL, and Dangote Group, over allegations of economic sabotage in the petroleum sector. And this follows concerns about billions spent on refinery maintenance. A 40-member Senate committee formed on July 23 will investigate the spending on state-owned refineries over the past decade. A public hearing is scheduled for September the 10th, where contractors involved in refinery maintenance will be called to account. Senate members have pledged to tackle corruption head-on, warning that no one will be exempt from the scrutiny. And then, of course, the question will arise: what has happened to old investigations and, of course, the money spent? Now, a bit of the market before we go right into it is the federal government is planning to issue $500 million in domestic foreign currency bonds, and that's going to happen in the next 3 to 4 weeks. The Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale, made this known during a press briefing in Abuja, and that meeting was tagged Economic Recovery and Growth. Mr. Adu explains that the bonds will use Nigeria's financial system rather than Western structures or Eurobonds. The goal is to attract foreign currency from Nigerians abroad and others interested in supporting the government's economic reforms. He adds that the government has no current plans to issue Eurobonds and will focus first on the success of these domestic bonds. Well, hopefully that will cost less. Debt servicing, we know, is skyrocketing, getting close to about 80% of revenue. Not a good one. And so, of course, if you have the domestic bonds, perhaps that will cost the government less and will still be funding our budget. Now, going green is a common phrase globally, but what happens to the infrastructure to sustain the green operations? Organizers of a Rental News Summit believe that this is an important area for discussion in Nigeria, and that was the focus at the 2024 event, which had economists and other stakeholders in Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. Exploring nature for energy is the conversation here at the 2024 Rental News Summit, with the theme Green Economy, Sustainable Growth and Infrastructure Transformation. The objective here is to practice sustainable actions in daily tasks.
The world is transitioning from an era where the metrics or the parameters for a company's success is measured only by the profits and the dividends to shareholders. Other metrics highlighted above are equally very important, especially the question of sustainability. This should form a major part of our business and economic management culture. As stakeholders, we have responsibility to hold businesses and policymakers accountable on account of these critical metrics.
When you see this, don't be afraid, all right? They are just there to give you power. Of course, you can use the windmills.
The guest speaker, the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Dr. Emomotimi Agama, delves into the heart of the issue.
So we're saying that the Renewable Energy Master Plan aims to diversify Nigeria's energy mix by increasing the share of renewable energy to 30% of total electricity generation by 2030. 2030 is just 6 years away. We hope we'll get there. The target aligns with Nigeria's commitment to sustainable development and reducing its carbon emission footprints. The headers from the Energy Commission. So it is clear and important that this is done to be able to deal with the issues around power. The REM prioritizes developing the solar, wind and hydro and biomass energy resources. What is biomass energy resources? Do you know that from cow dung, from your poo, you can actually create energy?
7,000 megawatts of electricity is generated from the national grid, but only 6,400 megawatts is transmitted. Perhaps green energy has the solution.
When we are talking about the infrastructure transformation, we need to look into the infrastructures of the national grid. If we decide to even generate 1 kilowatt of electricity, we are 200 million Nigerians. Let's say even 50 million generate 1 kilowatt of electricity. We will not be able to have the infrastructure to transmit the 50 million kilowatts, which will be like 50,000 megawatts of electricity. Even if we generate it today, we will not have the infrastructure to carry it. So the onus is on each and every one of us to just go renewable.
The onus is now on individuals and businesses to think and do green in daily operations for sustainability.
Online professors.
Thinking and doing green, I guess that's the next wave. Maybe that can give a solution to some of the infrastructural gap that we have in the country. Now, let's talk about doing business in a high interest rate environment, which is our reality here in Nigeria. We talk about ease of doing business. What about the cost of funding? And we're going to discuss this with Mr. Babatunde Erinjogola. He's the Chief Executive Officer, Executive Vice Chairman of Smartcom Investments Limited. Mr. Erinjogola, thank you for your time and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so before we get into that high interest rate issue, let me just get your thoughts on this launch by the federal government, which was announced by the Minister of Finance yesterday, the domestic bonds. What are some of the advantages and how effective do you see this going in funding our budget, which is the core, of borrowings by the government?
Yeah, I think it's thank you. I think it's a very good initiative. It's been long overdue. We have left our critical value base left untapped, or we are tapping them wrongly. We have a huge number of Nigerians all around the world that have, made it, and they can actually support the economy by investing in Nigeria. Feelers around the world is that they can't even know where to put the money to. They try to talk to investors and talk to brothers and sisters, and what happens is they usually have bad experience. But if a bond of like $500 million is being promoted by the Ministry of Finance and Central Bank, that will give them the confidence enough to bring in the needed foreign exchange, which anyway is almost Nigeria's right, because Nigeria trained most of these people, and they've been abroad, and now they want to give back. But the medium through which they will do that It's just worrisome for them. So this bond is a good one. It will, bring in more foreign exchange into the country, help to stabilize the economy, and at the same time, give government and the people the feeling, our citizens abroad in diaspora, a good feeling again about Nigeria. And they can see, especially with what government is doing lately in terms of being transparent, coming out to tell us what they are doing and how they are doing things. I think we should applaud them for that. I like the idea.
Okay, but does this reduce the cost of debt servicing since it's in dollars?
Yeah, it should. Well, debt servicing is it's what you have agreed on already. So whatever it is, it's just for you to ensure that you get more inflow into your system, such that you will be able to take from that to service your debt, conveniently, and be able to still support productivity in the economy. So that's what. So it's the volume we're able to get in, and what we put into that will make the difference for us.
Yeah, obviously what we put into, because a lot of people have said, even though we've seen debt to GDP ratio above 50% for the first time in the country, it shouldn't actually be a source of worry if we had, for instance, we're doing $500 million now. What purpose is it tied to? Do we see that purpose coming to pass? So with that, you can actually track the benefits of this loan, and servicing it wouldn't be so much of a problem.
Yeah, that's it. And, just to give you a bit of perspective and concern into that, we are good at coming up with policies. And when we even mention the purpose and the purpose is known to the public, how do we ensure compliance, that we keep to what we said we would do and we're able to extract the expected outcome out of it? For me, that has been a challenge. We've had good ideas coming from Ministry of Finance and CBN. Talk about the SME funding we had in 2010. In 2000, there was this program by the central bank, which the Bankers Committee promoted, where they take 10% of the PBT of banks and use it to support the small and medium-scale industry. And that, I actually participated in that, and that helped a lot of small businesses to be able to access cheap funds, and they promoted their business, and some of them became a publicly quoted company through that process. But that was abandoned. I'm not saying it may not be perfect in terms of how it was operated that time, but we have to pick the values in them and learn our mistakes and continue. But the rate at which we abandon good initiative, especially in Nigeria, when we are trying to solve problem of deepening the market, empowering the people, we are too quick to abandon policies. So I hope this 500 million bond and the target market for it will be successful, and when it does, we're able to sustain it.
So how would you say, or what would you say, what measures would you say could be put in place for this $500 million bond to make it effective? Do we publicize maybe a purpose for it? Do we put timelines? Something like that that could actually make it impactful.
Well, the global finance today is supported by strong compliance process and mechanism. So the CBN, as the regulatory body and Ministry of Finance, should come up with strong compliance process to support the policy implementation, such that when the fund is launched, the purpose is declared, and compliance to make sure that what they said the money will be used for is what is used for. And they measure the performance, they measure the outcome. With that, we will be able to know when to launch another one, or people will come out, because there might be periodic reporting of how it's going, and you'll see it driving more interest in people that are a bit skeptical about investing in Nigeria. Nigeria today can actually bring in over 20, 40 billion, dollars into the economy, but they are just afraid. So compliance, commitment to what we say we would do, and being transparent about it and reporting it objectively to the public will help a lot in reinstating confidence in Nigeria and our people in diaspora, because we have enough in diaspora to actually support us.
at
this critical moment.
Because we just even saw a report from NIDCOM CEO saying that I think about $99 million had been remitted from the diaspora community in 5 years. So obviously a lot of potentials there. But where does the hike I know the last hike on the NPR was a moderate one. Where does it fit in to all of this? Obviously, it will make bonds like this more attractive to investors. But on the other hand, what is it doing to the real sector? That's also another side of the conversation.
Well, that's always the challenge with policy. There is always the up and there is the down. So what is important to you at the moment is what you focus on, and you continue to engage the policy in terms of evaluation, such that at the right time you can review and make adjustments as appropriate. So to get straight to your point, I think the $500 million bond being raised by the CBN is actually a follow-on to the hike in interest rate. Because with that, the CBN, I don't think they've announced the rate, the yield on it already. But the good thing about it is that it will drive in more foreign exchange, and it will help to, in a way, appreciate the Naira from the challenging situation it has been over the time. But I think that is the primary concern of government. They want to stabilize the exchange rate space and make sure that people can plan, international community can, do medium and long-term business with Nigeria. So with that in place and the bond coming up, hopefully that will create the necessary inflow to help stabilize the Naira. But the other side to it is the credit supply in the local market. You'll find out that banks will be kind of reluctant to grant loan to businesses. At the same time, cost of borrowing will go up. So all of these will be temporary. So hopefully if the first one is successful or is achieved, where we have more inflow into the economy and there is that stability, and the political noise, well, I'm being careful about that, because government appear to be too pressured with the political situation around foreign exchange, fluctuation. So hopefully, if we can allow the government to have a kind of a stable time to be able to implement some of the policies, options they have, all in a mix, hopefully in a short time, we will have some relief. We are looking at any policy around things like this will be about 18 to 24 months. So if we put too much pressure on our government, it tends to shift their focus out of actually digging deep into the benefits of the policy they put on the table. So I think we should work with the government at this stage and be patriotic enough to trust them and demand from them anything that is not clear to us through writing them or programs like this, and hopefully we will all be on the same page. We must work together to solve the problem at hand. We cannot be drawing ourselves back and expect to make progress.
Yeah, it does sound like you're referring to the protest asking for more time, just as the federal government has asked. But I guess the man on the street is hungry, and if you ask for more time, how much time and how much more can they endure? But just tell us, in this era of high interest rates in the country, what are some strategies that businesses, even the small and the big businesses, are facing it? What are some strategies you think they can use as a hedge at a time like this?
Yeah, the good thing for us is for us now to look at the advantages of this and see how best we can draw on them. Number one is that businesses must be careful now in terms of borrowing and all of that, because the cost is high, and that would be passed on to the consumer, whatever products they make, and from there, they will not be able to sell as they expect, and there will be less revenue for them and all of that. And the effect of that will be to look inwards and begin to reduce staff and unemployment and all of that. So we should be a bit resilient and come up with ideas, probably look to other means of raising funds, like the government is coming now to Nigerians abroad or wherever that will bring in dollars, we too can reach out to our colleagues, our friends who are, who share ideas about our business, or we approach financial consultants who can guide us as to who are having money and they can invest in our business. We are just always running solo most of the time. So when we work together, we would put funds together and we can invest in our business and reduce the cost of funds, and ultimately growth can, follow that process. Another idea is for us to look at the assets we don't actually need for now and sell them off to raise capital to support our business. And most importantly, we have to be a bit resilient at this point, not to take any harsh or rash decision that will impact us on the long run. So we should be calm, we should be strategic, and engaging with the government and its policies to see the benefits therein.
I wonder if there are opportunities for businesses to also benefit from this, the high yield rate, for instance, like this Eurobond. I know this particular one, the government is targeting the diaspora, but do you see opportunities for businesses to also maybe go into the treasury bond, treasury market, treasury bills, bonds and OMO and all of that? Are there opportunities for them to hedge in these areas?
Well, that will only be good for those just in the investment space, not for businesses that are offering products and services. Because when you offer products and services, you need the cash to pay your suppliers, to buy products, pay staff, and all your costs. You don't want to put that money in just instruments that will be there and you'll be waiting for the time to liquidate it and get your yield. That is not for the businesses on the street that you and me engage on a daily basis. So what is good for those ones is government can do something as well like they've done before. I mean, Nigeria cannot be lacking in good initiatives and ideas. Governments in this country have come up with some good ideas to support businesses by SME guarantee scheme, which will maybe they will make that available to our banks, and SME can be given a special rate based on CBN guarantee for small businesses. So it will reduce the impact on small businesses, because what we don't want to do at this stage is to destroy or lower our production base. At this stage is the time for us to advance our productivity. Let me share with you that there is a lot we can do beyond our oil, attachment to oil revenue. For instance, Thailand is the highest producer of cassava, exporter of cassava in the world. Why would that be when Nigeria produces cassava easily and there is market for starch all around the world? So people can be supported to go into land and produce and sell and even generate revenue for the government. The same thing goes for, like chicken, frozen food that we import. Our people have the capacity to grow chicken, breed chicken in just like 2 months, 2.5 months. We're there because all we need, there is capacity in the country to do all of these basic agricultural activities that can generate foreign exchange, at the same time provide stability in our economy by making food cheaper. So these are a mix of ideas that we can put together either at the institutional level, by the government, or by even our groups, small businesses, association groups and all of that. We have to just continue to think. The same effort with which we put into trying to get the government to do the right thing, we must share that with ourselves as well to make sure that we are doing the right thing that this situation calls for, because this is a very challenging situation and it's not limited to Nigeria anymore. So it's a global issue. It's just that it affects us differently. I will want to encourage small businesses to continue to come through their cooperative and association, put together, know their demands, let's suggest to government how they can help us, what help we need, And they'll come to stations like this and say it, and hopefully government will listen.
Yeah, well, hopefully they will. Hopefully they will listen, Mr. Arugunjo, because a lot of them have been here, and we have shared great and brilliant ideas. But it all goes back to the ease of doing business. It all goes back. The Poultry Association have been here, and they've talked about their challenges, you know, and all of that. The farmers' security is the top on their list, you know. So these issues are there, and these ideas are really flying in the air, but actually getting it done. As you said, we need a lot of government intervention. But we have to thank you so much for your time this morning. Chief Executive Officer and Executive Vice Chairman of Smartcom Investments Limited, Mr. Babatunde Eringo-Jindo. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll head to the markets. Stay with us. Welcome back to Watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We'll do a bit of markets now and see how it fared at the close of trade yesterday, beginning with the NGX. The stock markets closed again in the red, 0.21%. Profit taking is still the theme at that market. Getting really risky about the 100,000 level. You see, we're now 100,100, and any slip today, we could lose that 100,000 level. I don't pray for that. Equity cap is still 56 trillion, 56.71 trillion, even after it lost 118 billion naira yesterday. We could see those that drove this sentiment in the market. That would be really nice. We could have the volume. There you have it. The volume and the value were in the green, but deals was in the red, 8,198. Looking at the counters now to see those that were favored and those who were not. Profit taking is still getting even deeper in the banking. I wonder what's going on, what's in the mind of investors at this time. We do know that a lot of activities are going on among the banks or around the banking sector ahead of that recapitalization. A lot of them are already listed, and you have opportunity to get into them, but we see profit taking is still going on there, 1.59%. Do the investors have a strategy, perhaps, to see a lower price and then they can hop in? I don't know. Consumer goods was also down yesterday, 0.32%. Industrial goods marginally down. Insurance, our penny stocks growing, continue to be in the red now. I think we've got 2 consecutive days. And finally, we have just a little bit of movement with the oil and gas. Now we go to the other market, the treasury bills yesterday. The second market was on an active note. That's talking about the treasury bills now. Yesterday, the secondary market started with quotes, a newly issued 1-year bond, 21.90%. That was the yield, between 21.9 and 21.6. There was demand intensity at the trading. There you have the treasury bills right there. And then we see the rate there, 21.31, 20.60, 20. So, you know, investors, of course, will compare this to the inflation rate, which is what will make it attractive or not. A lot of eyes looking at the numbers now. Well, there's the time to get number literacy, I guess. That's for the treasury bills. The expectation is that today there'll be maybe a little bit of improvement in liquidity in the system, and that might push more movement right there. I'm sure you get get the full details of that tomorrow during Capital Markets at 7 p.m. right here on Channels Television. Go to the bonds market. Now, federal government market opened quietly. Minimal activities, what was seen in early trade as yesterday for the funded of the NTB function. There you have it, the federal government bonds yesterday, yes. So current rates there, we see about 24.319. I think the highest there is the 24.3%. That's the March 2025 auction. That's when it's mature, March 2025, right there. So, I mean, as I guess, this may not be good for businesses because you need to be patient. You have to wait to March 2025 to get about 24.36%. But obviously, comparing this, can you use it to hedge against inflation? Of course, that would be a very dominant question right there for investors, would be and already in the market. All right, so that's it. So that's the much we can take. I'll be back at 1 p.m. Business Incorporated will give you a full 55 minutes going around the world of business. That'll be myself. We'll do it again. I'll see you then.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, arrives for the quarterly ministerial briefing of the ministry, aimed at providing details of the trajectory of the nation's economy. Flanked by heads of agencies, directors, and top management of the Finance Ministry, Mr. Edun gives a performance update on the nation's economy in the first quarter of 2024.
There has been a reconfiguration of the processes and the procedures in order to give greater visibility, greater transparency, and therefore accountability in government spending. That is the way government can earn the trust of the people that their money is being spent wisely. This government has exited ways and means borrowing. Total debt service has declined from 97% of revenue in the first half of 2023 to 68% in 2024.
He also touches on the economic interventions and government's plans for the rest of the year.
There is a focus on inflation. There is the focus on production. And there is the focus on supporting business as a whole. As part of the implementation plan of the short-term stabilization package, particular focus will be given to driving food security, creating an improved investment climate for oil and gas. We expect inflation. By the time we can have successful harvests and we can reduce post-harvest losses, we expect inflation to come down to between 20 and 25%, as already signaled by Central Bank, by the way. We expect the total debt stock to be below, in dollar terms, $95 billion. And we expect the budget deficit to be around 4%, which is the target.
Pertinent on the minds of Nigerians is the soaring food prices, as the figures put forward by the government seems like a far cry from reality. However, the minister explains government's plans to drive down the prices of food in the country.
There is, as I said, importation taking place on a temporary basis, not in a way that would now discourage, incentivize, and hurt local domestic producers. No, it's raw materials for them to make into finished goods, to make into food, to make into feed. So focus is on the agricultural sector in a fight. It's a war
to get food prices down.
The minister assures Nigerians that the economy has turned a corner and it is set for growth and progress. He also appealed to Nigerians to be patient with the present administration for the macroeconomic policies to come to fruition. From Abuja, Victoria Longjohn for Channels Television News.
Well, Dr. Adetokunbo Pierce joins us this morning to have a conversation around this and a number of other issues. He's a former member of PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Does that briefing by the Minister of Finance and some of the issues raised, how does it resonate with
you? The fact of the matter is everything begins from the annual budget. The reason why we have problems, food shortage, food insecurity, is because one of the reasons is the amount budgeted for development of agriculture was adequately, it was so much below what was expected.
That's at the federal level?
Yeah. What the problem we're having in the country has to do with the overall vision of the economy that was wrong from the beginning. The president's view of how the economy will develop is totally contrary to development. It's anti-development. Once you remove subsidy in oil, the economy becomes a major problem, a major flaw in the economy, because everything runs on oil, especially in a country where electricity is so inadequate and unreliable.
Well, what do you think you should have done with that subsidy removal?
Well, you see, I think I said it before, the problem of solving, the way you solve problems cannot be piecemeal. It has to be holistic. When the IMF and other world bodies suggested that we remove subsidy, this is where the problem came. They did not say remove subsidy per se. They said you have to do three things simultaneously. That is how you solve problems. One, as you are removing subsidy, you must deal with the corruption and the theft and the shortcomings in your oil industry. You must deal with that. Secondly, right? Thirdly, you must diversify your economy so that you can raise more revenue. You have to do all of those things together. But what President Tinubu did was remove subsidy. And then the other things are not taken care of. Therefore, the economy is damaged.
Is it this president that removed subsidy, or the previous administration?
Look, perception is everything. If at the National Assembly, the budget in the 2022-2023 budget had already said subsidy will be removed, right? That is talk. Buhari didn't remove it the way Tinubu did it. Tinubu removed it without consultation, not gradually.
But you do realize, just a second, you do realize that it wasn't this president that drew up the 2023 budget.
Yeah, I know.
And that the budget of 2023 did not have subsidy until the end of it. In fact, according to that government, budget subsidy support ended in June. All this president did, to the best of my knowledge, and I stand to be corrected, is to say, because of what the previous administration has done, subsidy is gone.
Well, you remember what I just said. Subsidy may be gone, but it cannot go by itself. If you take away subsidy without doing the other two things you have to do, which is to fight corruption in the oil industry And corruption in your industry has been maximized now under this administration.
We'll come back to that because, I mean, even maybe we should even,
You understand the point I'm making?
I do understand.
So I am
but
not,
the point
nobody's
that I'm trying
blaming
to make there,
the president for removing subsidy.
Okay.
Because that subsidy cannot be maintained. Okay, you have to remove that subsidy. But guess what? You have to subsidize oil, electricity, food, health, education. That is the way governments run. You know, we have this terminology
so you
in
remove
Nigeria.
subsidy from one place and you put it in 5 places. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
no. You have to have subsidy in all of those places. That's the way government runs. You know why? Because governments must make money. Governments must raise revenue. Bola Ahmed Tinubu doesn't know how to make money, he only knows how to spend money. We have not developed our economy.
How do you make money by giving subsidy?
This is what I'm saying. You have to do all of these things simultaneously. In your own home, how do you spend money? You must make money to spend money.
I'm trying to understand. You said that the government needs to subsidize health, subsidize education, and all those things.
Yes.
And by so doing, they are making money.
No. What I'm saying is, in order for them to be able to do that, they have to raise their revenue. That's why I said
so how
you have
do
to
you
do
propose,
the things.
How do you propose that the government should raise revenue?
Now, you cannot depend on oil alone as your source of revenue. You have to diversify the economy. Everything I'm saying here has been said by 100 times by 100 specialists all over the world. Look, you have to maximize your income from the oil revenue that you have. You know now, according to some statistics, 80% of the production of crude oil in Nigeria is either stolen or wasted in some way. You have to deal with that issue so that we maximize. Listen to me, this thing is holistic. You have to maximize your revenue from what you have now. Right now, we are shortchanging the oil industry. The president must look into that as he is removing subsidy, because otherwise he will have no money to run the economy. So one, you do that in the oil industry. Then you go into diversification of the economy. We have uranium in this country. We have bitumen in this country. We have iron in this country. We have bauxite in this country. We have, what's the one they use now to make batteries and to prepare batteries? Now, if you do not do that, the economy will be stagnated. And that's where we are now. So that you understand me, all these things must go together.
All of these issues that you're raising have been raised since the days of President Obasanjo, into the days of Yar'Adua, into the days of Jonathan. So it's clearly, I mean, there was an initiative, I forgot which initiative it was, that was started by the government of, the Jonathan government, that was only executed under this particular government. So there are those who would say government is a continuum. However, there's always a focus on the federal government. Is that the right way to go? How come there isn't as much focus on the activities of state governments as opposed to just squarely focusing on the federal government? You spoke, for instance, about agriculture. Now, every agricultural productivity happens at the states. The federal government doesn't have land. It can only get the land from the state governments. So how come it is not as, we're not giving as much focus and giving as much pressure to the state governments to be agriculturally productive, and we're only looking at the federal government, who is only more or less a supervisor?
This is the issue. This is why we say you have to diversify, you have to devolve power to the states. You know what? Why we focus on federal government? Because federal government has all the power now.
Does the federal government have exclusive power in agriculture?
Yes. You know why? Because it is the federal government that will determine the federal budget. It is what the budget has to offer.
What do we do with the states? What do we do with the budgets that the state governments come up with?
Well, it is the budget they come up with Who is funding the budget? The federal government.
No. The state governments have IGR, and then they get FAC. That FAC that they get is not at the whim and caprice of the federal government. It is at the whim and caprice of the federation. And I'm sure you know that there's a difference.
Look, all that is tautology, okay? I beg to differ with you. The reality is this. It is the federal government that funds the states, and that is where the problem is. In the United States, which we say we are copying, federation, the states have the power to raise their own revenue. Do you realize now that if you have bitumen in your state, you have uranium in your state, you cannot use those resources to develop your economy because you have to have support, you have to have approval from the federal government before you can actually float your bonds abroad. That is the problem with Nigeria. That's why we're talking about the evolution of powers.
How far back does this particular issue that you just raised?
1999 Constitution is a federalist constitution.
So it means
that is centralized.
This issue that you are raising is 25 years old.
Well, look, Nigeria has been on hold since the Civil War. You understand me? If you want to know how Nigeria should be run, you go back to before the First Republic, before the coup, when we had the regions. That's why we're saying we go back to that, so that each region now can use the resources in that region, as we were using palm kernel and rubber in the southwest, in the western region, and peanut pyramids in the north, and so on and so forth, to raise revenue.
It's like you're making
excuses.
Point in just time, a second. It's like you're making excuses for the governors. You're excusing them from contributing anything to the economic hardship that people are complaining about.
No.
Because you haven't said anything about what governors should be doing, what the state governments should be doing to make lives better for their people.
The state governments, let me tell you what's going on in this country. The state governments get, maybe they have as much as, let us say, 450 billion to spend. The local government gets something like 7-10 billion. All that money, if it is put to good use, you find some states doing well. Now, you find some not doing well. There's a lot of corruption. A lot of governors are not performing. They're not spending the money adequately. That is a problem. But I got to tell you, we need to have more and more money in all those states. That is why you don't find any state developed in Nigeria.
So are you saying
all
then
these
that
years,
it is justified that the governors who have, as you said, 450 billion naira to spend, it's okay for them to not make judicious use of their people because it is not enough?
Like I said, there are some that use that money judiciously.
So why is the attention not on those who are not doing the right things that you're saying? Why are we not asking them the questions?
No. That's a separate issue. You should ask them the question. If we are talking about states, take individual states. But you know, each state has to be evaluated on its own, right? So we know which state is performing and which is not. You can't talk about governors generally, okay? All you can say about governors generally is all governors must use whatever they have judiciously, effectively. Some do, some don't. Those that don't, we should talk about them if need be. The reason we talk about the federal government all the time is because there is too much power vested in the federal government.
I would like for you to educate the Nigerian. For me, that's the real essence of having this kind of conversation. Because even if all the state government got was 10 naira, and they're expected to do a good number of things, and they need extra money, can we see proof of, okay, this is how much these states, which, let's take, for instance, the states that you say are not performing well enough, this is what they are supposed to be doing, and they have not done it, or they are not doing it. Should we be excusing them?
Not at all. Look. You see, what happens in government is this. If you give a local government, for instance, 7 billion naira a month to operate. Governor Makinde of Oyo made a statement which actually told me give me an example, what's going on, which I always suspected. 5.3 billion of that is used to pay salaries. What is left for development of roads, for education, for health? There's nothing left.
I'm assuming
so
that this
is
7
the
billion,
problem.
I'm assuming that this 7 billion that you are citing, for example, is from the federal allocation. According to the law, the state governments ought to contribute into that same purse. Are you aware of what amount each state contributes to add to that 7 billion? Is there any addition from the states?
Definitely. All I'm telling you is what, at the end of it all, what gets to the state, plus what they put in, what the federal government gives them, what they have to work with. If you are going to spend 80%, 85% of your funds on salaries, do you understand me? This is where I say the federal government, as it is run, has too much control. It cannot operate, it cannot function. There will be no development in the country unless the states have enough authority to use what they have to develop their states.
Even though you know that since this, from information available in public domain, that the federal government, this federal government continues to boast that they have added more money to the states, that to share with the states than ever before now. But let's talk
That
quickly.
is true. That is true.
So then, is there any justification for them not spending the... Anyway?
No. They have to spend. See, look. The point I'm making is this.
They have more money now. They didn't have enough money before. They have more money now, and we are still not getting development.
They should do more. They should do more. They should do more. And by the way, some states are doing more. Abia State is doing a lot. Or your state is doing a lot. There are about 4 or 5 states that are performing.
Out of 36.
Yes. That's our problem. And another thing about Nigeria is law enforcement. Law enforcement.
So 4 or 5 governors out of 36 are
law
doing
enforcement.
Very well,
That's very bad. It's very bad. That's why we have no development. Now.
So why then are we, when we know that we have X number of states, 4 or 5 out of 36 doing well, and the rest of them are not doing well, and no one is talking about them?
Why are we not talking about it now?
But only because I asked you the questions.
Yeah,
because your focus is on the federal government, which is not a bad thing.
Sure.
But then we should be talking, anyway, let's quickly talk about it, because there's going to be protests in the states, at least this so-called impending
Do you know
protests.
that all those states that are performing, that are performing now, the ones that are doing very well, they are still 20 years behind where they should be. They're still, you know why? Because since the Civil War, throughout the years of military regime, we had no development in Nigeria. And 1999 Constitution has thrown us back to where we were with the military people, because that's a military constitution, centralized again in federal government. Until you devolve power to the states, as we had in those days when we had regions, there will be no development in Nigeria.
Okay, let's quickly talk about this protest, because there, of course, a lot of people will argue with you on that one. This so-called protest that is oncoming.
Most people will not, because we're talking about
what's your take on this
restructuring.
This protest being aspired for?
Well, look.
Are you in support of it?
Definitely. Definitely.
Are you going to come out on August 1 to
I'm too old for that now.
Okay.
I'm doing my job.
Do you know the people?
I'm doing my job by doing this.
Do you know the people?
And we will continue to protest.
Do you know the people who are behind the protest?
I don't know them, but what I've read in the social media and in the media, there are people.
Now, Mr. Falano, the SAN, said that he will not support a protest that he doesn't know the people who are behind it. What's your reaction to that?
I agree with him. You see, at his level, if you want him to be involved in the protest, you have to sit with him and plan the protest. That is at the level that he is.
Now, there are those
at my level, I don't need to know who they are. They don't have to meet with me. I know the principle. I know the reasons why they're protesting. They are saying that bad governance,
46 years ago...
We always protest in Nigeria, by the way. This is not the first time. We protest all the time.
Exactly. 1978, 46 years ago, there was a protest, the Ali Must Go protest. The basis of that protest was high cost of living, which was championed by the students at the time. Today, we are still talking about high cost of living. Comparing what the Ali Must Go protest achieved and this one, do you have any confidence of any expected outcomes?
Look, the cost of living has gone through the roof today. Nobody is secured in Nigeria today. Government officials are living large. They're making billions. And they're building houses all over the place, all over the world. There was something I read recently. A minister in 1 year has bought 4 houses in Canada. Look, there is so much corruption. And when anybody protests in the National Assembly, when Ningi said they were embezzling money, they sacked him. When Ndume said there's corruption there, or you should deal with the problems of the country, they sacked him. This is a reactionary government. And people are protesting that this is bad governance. You are buying jets for yourselves and people are starving. And you are telling you can't pay living wage because you don't have the money. You don't know that you have to cut back on what you are spending in order for you to be able to pay to help the economy. You are spending 15 billion to rehabilitate Vice President's house and you are saying there's no money. You must stop the wastage and the exuberance on yourselves. You must lead by example. This is what people are protesting about. There's too much corruption. The judicial system is compromised. The electoral system is compromised. People say there is bad governance. Whether it was 1978, 1920, it doesn't matter. People must always express their views about government.
Absolutely.
Government is always under pressure.
Absolutely.
So this government should not think that it is new. It too, President Tinubu was living rebellion against people.
Well, he said that himself, yes.
Look, let me tell you something.
Because our time
this is a government, this is Tinubu that said that if Jonathan does not leave the office, they will set up a parallel government. It was that bad. And now he's saying people are protesting, they want to stop the protest. Those who make peaceful protest.
Did you listen to the president's last contest?
Those who make peaceful protests impossible will make violent protest inevitable. Well, so he better be careful.
Absolutely. We have to thank you very much this morning. Dr. Adetokunbo Pierce is a former member of PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Markwe Chemelin.
Yes, indeed, we have a few mails, but sadly we are totally out of time. The song came to mind while he was speaking, our guest was speaking, and it's Raskimono's Under Pressure. Just in case you have forgotten that song, you might want to go and listen to it again. But thank you so much, Prof, for sending in your message. Pastor Law Alpha Cross and Ocheje Ilias, thank you so much for your feedback.
Yes, indeed. So that wraps it up today and for the week. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Goodbye.
Malkwe Ogun Yusuf. Have a great Friday.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful weekend.
The following is a paid presentation by Shopex TV. You're watching Shopex TV, home to some of the most popular international brands in Africa. And we are now proud to introduce our biggest offer of the year, the Shopex Mid-Year Sales. From now until the end of July 2024, we will be offering our customers 20,000 Naira off this amazing kitchen collection. Tired of pans that scratch and stick or cookware that takes up valuable space in your kitchen? Introducing Shopex Gotham Hammered Copper Collection.
You would normally pay up to 364,950 Naira for the 10-piece Gotham Hammered collection. But call the number on your screen now or scan the QR code and get the entire collection for just 344,950 Naira, saving you 20,000 Naira. But wait, if you order now, we will upgrade you to the 21-piece Premier Kitchen Collection at no extra charge and also include one oil all-in-one food processor that blends, grinds, chops, dices, pounds yam, and makes smoothies in seconds. All for just 344,950 naira only. Place your order now and we'll deliver the entire collection for free anywhere you are in Nigeria.
The proceeding was a paid presentation brought to you by Shopex TV.
Hello and welcome to News Track on Channels Television. I'm Anne Nwawado. Our top stories this hour. Traditional rulers in Nigeria have called for patience with the government in the face of the planned protest by some Nigerians. Speaking at the State House after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu, the leaders said there is need for all Nigerians to continue to work with the government to address the challenges facing the nation. They promised to continue to engage with citizens to forestall the breakdown of law and order.
Officers at the ready, the red carpet laid out. The State House is ready for newly appointed ambassadors. The ambassador from the United States, the High Commissioner of Malaysia to Nigeria, and the High Commissioner of Botswana. One after the other handed in their letters of credence to President Bola Tinubu. In his remarks to the U.S. ambassador, President Tinubu is quoted in a statement by his special advisor on media, Ojinika, to have touched on the issue of the planned protest by some Nigerians, saying, "During the military era, we made our voices heard against dictatorship, and I was part of the group that engaged in peaceful protests without resorting to the destruction of property. We've worked hard to ensure 25 years of unbroken democracy, and I will continue to maintain this democracy. Inasmuch as we believe that demonstrations are part of democracy, we will never encourage any protest that lead to the destruction of lives and property." Afterwards, the president meets with some governors led by the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. They, however, declined to speak after the meeting. Next was a meeting with traditional rulers from across the country. In attendance were some ministers and the Inspector General of Police. After the meeting, the traditional rulers called for calm and patience.
It is very difficult to build, but it is the easiest to destroy. We are all stakeholders of this country. We should be stronger as a nation together.
This protest, I know that it's catching you very, very high in your neck. But if you give us the chance, let us not destroy our own country. I ask you, think of Libya. Libya was a beautiful country. What has happened to Libya, we don't want it to happen here. Let's go home. Let's continue to strive the best that we can and continue to work with the government to see if we can proffer some solutions.
Well, message we're taking back to our people is to be calm, to exercise patience, and also to listen to the words of wisdom coming from the traditional rulers, from the governors, because we have spoken to the president, and he has given us the blueprint of what he has been doing over time, and we're hopeful, that inshallah it will be well.
It was a busy day for the president as he also met with a delegation of Islamic scholars. They speak on the outcome of their meeting.
Internally, we are against insurrection because this is not a protest. It is a protest that has the potential to lead to insurrection, the destruction of lives and properties and infrastructures. We are appealing to the people to shelve it. It is an ill wind that blows no one no good.
It will appear these meetings have proven invaluable in ensuring an exchange of information, all in a bid to ensure the peace and unity of the country. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
And as reactions continue to trail the proposed nationwide protest over the state of the nation, some states, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, are maintaining that they will not allow any protest in their states. States like Bauchi, Adamawa, and the FCT are meeting to discuss the proposed protest. Youth groups in Niger and Sokoto states have also distanced themselves